Hey, everybody, I'm Scott Stokely, and I am not doing a podcast because if you call it a podcast, people almost tune out. It's so saturated. So I'm just talking to my friend. One of the feel-good, like the true feel-good stories to happen this year. I mean, there's a few of them. I mean, obviously the James Conrad story, and but this one to us older folks is no smaller a deal because it's one of those times in sports where you look at someone that's paid their dues. They paid their dues for years and decades and wins but hadn't really put together that big one yet. And and honestly, and this is not me doubting anybody, but after a while you start to wonder if it's going to happen because it hasn't happened yet. And then boom, out of the blue, Brad Schick wins the US Masters. And I can tell and I'll say it right to your face, Brad, nobody was unhappy about it. You're one of those people that everybody likes. You've never really rubbed anybody the wrong way in 30 years of playing. Everyone was rooting for you. And then for you to win it was stellar. And I'm so happy that you're talking to me. So thank you, Brad.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the kind words. I try my hardest to be likable, and I'm sure I've pissed some people off along the way, but I do my best. So it was a good week, and I was really happy to get that monkey off my back. So yeah, it was a good time.
No, absolutely. And I want to talk to you about that, but since we haven't talked to you on the show, but you've been around for a very long time, I want to just talk about you, and then we'll actually get to the tournament, and of course we'll talk about that. But you started playing early 90s?
Yeah, so I think I joined the PDGA in 92, maybe, something like that. I think I started playing in 90 or 91. My dad and my older brother, my brother Brian is 3 years older. And so we all started just playing with Whamos, fastbacks, and then played little doinker course in Columbus called Blenheim Woods. And then that's when Hoover Reservoir was installed with Brent Hambrick and Dan Busick and a bunch of the longtime locals in Columbus. And so we kind of got hooked on it from that point on. And then as we started going and seeing family in Indiana, we started playing there. And then it just kind of grew into, I gave up baseball, and then that was it. That was all I did. So play as much as I could as a kid, 13, 14 years old, and started getting into some tournaments, and the rest is history. Here I am. So.
Well, I mean, you got good pretty quickly. I mean, it takes years, but it didn't take you 15 years, right?
Yeah, I think, back then, I always joke, it sounds funny to say back when I was young, but now it really is kind of legit. So I'm 44. So I look back at when I played juniors maybe a couple of times. And then I started playing AM2, I think, and won some tournaments, and then played AM1. And I had an older brother and my dad, and then we had a neighbor across the street, Ben Bott, who he used to. They are both older than me, and they used to just kick the crap out of me. And I was such a baby, such a poor sport, get so mad. And then we finally, I think I hit puberty at about 19, and so then I could finally start to get a little bit of meat on my bones and throw a little bit further. And be more competitive against them. And then we always just went back and forth. So, and I think when I turned 17 or 18, I think I started playing open when I was 17. And then I didn't graduate till I graduated when I was 17. So I was playing pro then. I'm trying to think when it was, but I played the 96 Worlds when I was in South Bend. And I never played the AM Worlds, which was really stupid looking back because it was in Cincinnati in 1995, and a lot of my friends actually played, but I think I was already playing pro at that point. But I was just getting thumped. I was 17, getting thumped by Brent Hambrick, Kevin Stewart, Chuck Cutts, all the local guys that would just kick our butts. But it forced us to get better. So. Yeah.
Well, first off, let me tell you, I am not one of those 52-year-olds that says, "Oh, 44, oh, you young kids, da da da." No, 44 is old. I am absolutely shocked that you could use a cell phone at 44 years old. So
Hey,
I'm impressed.
I have it right here. I have a good one too. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because when we were younger, right, Masters age was 35, and looking back, I used to think when I was 20, like 35, that's like ancient, like, oh my God. And then as you start getting older, I think 35 is not Masters, right? And I can see 40, arguably 40 is probably Masters age. 45, yeah, because your body just doesn't heal up. And now the kids are so good that I watched the Music City Open today, and the guys they're just amazing. And there's so many new names on the board every week that you don't necessarily know. Doesn't mean they're not excellent players. You just don't hear about them week in and week out. So, with the paydays these guys are getting, it's just gonna keep going and keep going and keep going. So it's pretty exciting. So,
Well, I knew about you. I don't even know if it was before I met you or when I barely met you, but you were on my radar early because pre-internet, when it came to promotions, I was with Discraft, and I came up with the idea because let me back up. At the time, obviously Kenny was winning worlds every year, but I was playing well. I was touring and also setting world distance records. So I moved a meter a lot for Discraft, and Ken obviously moved a meter for Innova. But I came up with this idea I went to Jim Kenner with, and I said, because most players aren't even flying to tournaments barely. I said, we need to have a top pro in every single region. And let me pick the best player, I ended up, I think, picking about 20 or 22 players for the Discraft team, the first team in disc golf. But it was all done regionally. It's like, all right, who's the best player in Minnesota? Timmy Gill, slam dunk. Who's the best player in LA at the time? It was the Rico brothers, slam dunk. And you were the person that I came to first in Ohio. Now, I know Kevin Stewart was good, and Brent was, he was still with us then. But you were the combination of certainly as good as them, but also you were younger and had a higher ceiling. Just right, fair.
Yeah, Ben, you actually picked me and Ben bought up at the same time. Ben was having stellar years as well, like in
that's right. Yeah, of course.
AC Wide Open. He had some really big tournaments back then, and was even kind of thumping me. And he was 2 years older than me, I think. So we both were on the team early and young. And back then it was like get a box of discs, 50 discs for the year, and it was like Christmas, and like 3 polos, and it was like it was like the best thing ever, and now looking at the sponsorship and what people are getting, it is pretty awesome. But back then that was huge. I mean, and I've told you the last time I saw you in Indiana that I have a lot to thank you for, just because of that. I mean, I haven't ever switched. I mean, I see all these new discs. I mean, back then it was Innova, Discraft, Lightning, DGA. There was some discs, but that was pretty much it. Gateway, right? Dave McCormick had stuff, and that was pretty much it. And now it's just crazy, and it's exciting to see that the competition keeps coming. And but yeah, Discraft has been unbelievable to me. And as I've gotten older, they've only gotten better to me. And it's kind of crazy to think that, because with all the new talent that they've signed and the big contract deals and all the things that have happened, it's easy to think that they would shy away from some of the longer term players on the team, but they've actually treated me better and better every single year. So it's been awesome.
Well, what about obviously now the Discraft team is just loaded with top talent. Mm-hmm. Do they all recognize you as one of the early pioneers of the team?
I think some of them do. I think some of them just don't even know. They still don't even know who I am. Some of them that are so young, they've only been around 2 years. It was funny when I was playing at Great Lakes this year. I played 2 of the Disc Golf Pro Tours. Great Lakes, I got absolutely thumped because I can't throw for 75. And then in Idlewild, I did much better. I think I got 21st or 22nd, something like that. But I was practicing the night before, and I was, playing through a couple of people, and I saw Ezra Aderhold. And I haven't met Ezra, and I was like, he's young, stud, stacked, just good looking, everything that you wish you were when you were 23 years old. And I'm playing through, and we're just trying to get through. And he was like, "Are you Brad?" So he did recognize me. I don't know how or where from, but I was, I was just like, let me get through this kid so he can practice and try to win this tournament. But a lot of the other players, I mean, I think I know most of the team, but Yuli's been the team captain and doing great things, and there's just so many good players now that that everyone kind of has their own brand and their own thing they're trying to do, and Discraft's just been really supporting them all. So
all right, so go back into the 90s. You were traveling a lot for a player in the late 90s. I mean, you must have been like, and forgive me for not researching this, but guaranteed you were like top 10, top 5 in points every year.
Yeah, I don't even know. I never paid much attention to that. I mean, I worked a full-time job, so I was never one that could travel full-time. I was always kind of more of a regional player, and then every year I would try to go to Worlds. This was when I was younger. Try to go to Worlds. I would try to go to USDGC, and I would try to maybe go to like the Memorial, right? The Bob West Memorial, when they called it the Bob West. And then more regional, try to get it within 4 or 5 hours. So
that was, you were centralized though. So that was like 30 events a year, right?
It was everything. It was the Great Lakes Open. It was Pittsburgh. It was, I'm 3 hours from just about everything. I mean, like if you want to live in a disc golf like Mecca, Ohio's perfect, because you really are 3 hours from Pittsburgh, you're 3 hours from Ann Arbor, you're 3 hours from Indianapolis, you're 3 hours from Louisville and Lexington. And, there's just 3 hours of everything. And so, yeah, I could play 25 or 30 events. Like my wife I've been married 18 years now, and she's been the most supportive, most awesome person ever. Sometimes I think she enjoys it too much when I'm gone, but I just think she enjoys that I'm enjoying myself. So, that helps a lot, but I always am probably in that 25 to 30 tournament range. This year has been less, but I've been gone more because the tournaments now all seem to be hitting these 3-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the Worlds and the US Masters and some of those. So, although my tournament count's not up, I would say my days away from home are probably up. So, but back then, 30 tournaments, 25, 30 tournaments was not out of the norm. And that was a lot of traveling for sure, because it's not, back then it wasn't like it is now. I could hit there's probably 3 or 4 tournaments every weekend just in Ohio. Back then there would be, 3 or 4 or 5 in the state throughout the year. So you had to go quite a ways away to play. So
when did you win your first pro tournament?
I think it was probably in like 90. I don't even know exactly. I believe it was the Toronto Island Open when in like mid 90s, probably 93, 94, 95. I don't even know exactly. That's terrible. You're like
this is supposed to be like losing your virginity. Like,
I know, and that's sad. I'm pretty sure it was the Toronto Island Open, and it was a pretty big one for me because I beat Jeff Moulton, and Jeff was, that's like he was the best. Maltbag was the best up there on the island. So I went up with Gordon Holton and some other friends, and like it was the first time I had been there. And Mr. Bellier was like, it's just like, it'll always be embedded in my head. But I'm pretty sure that was my first win, and I want to say it was in the 94, 95, 96, something like that. So
crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. Think back. So
yeah, and now like you have 175 wins.
Yeah, it's a lot. I used to get made fun of for being like the local C tier, B tier, and I really don't play any C tier much anymore. Yeah. I've had a good amount of A tier wins. I don't know exactly. I got my national tour win at the Hamburg in like 2008. That was a huge one. This was my first major, and then a lot of B tier. So it's been fun. I mean, I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. So I don't know what I would be doing if I'd be probably like fishing or doing something super boring. I don't know. So.
Well, the thing is, you have all these wins. I don't know, like you are, a lot of people like feign humility. Like you are actually humble. And I don't mean when you're playing. When you playing, you're the pro there. Like, you have the right attitude to play, but you are a humble person. Like, that you probably stamped your way into the Hall of Fame last couple weeks ago. See, there you go. I knew that would be your reaction. Let me explain.
Okay.
I'm not saying you didn't have like A-tier wins, but think about the quarterback that has a ton of passing yards. They're 7th all time in passing yards, but they've never been out of the first round of the playoffs. Well, Dan Marino gets in, but other players that had a ton of yards, Phillip Rivers isn't, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just picking names, but like, you know, it's like, but if Phillip Rivers cashed in one Super Bowl, he's a slam dunk, like first ballot, because he had all the numbers and then boom, he hit that big one. And in my opinion, that was one of the first things I thought. Like you probably could have gotten it anyways, just on like the longevity and merit, but you're a slam dunk now, Brad.
I mean, that would be epic, and I would be proud of that achievement for sure. I think in 2018, I got in the Ohio Disc Golf Hall of Fame. Fred Salas and Chuck Custer and some others started that up in 2015 or 2014. And so I was in I think the 3rd or 4th round, or maybe something like that, into the Ohio Hall of Fame. So that was really kind of cool. But I never, you know, there's so many people that are deserving, including yourself, right? Like, when is your year coming, right? Is it this year? Is it next year? I mean, you know, there's so many deserving people that have done so much. The Ricos, I still find it hard to believe that they're not in the stuff that Stevie has done over the years. But yeah, that would be a huge honor. I mean, I think who wouldn't want to be in that when you've devoted your whole life to it? So, you know,
you're a slam dunk. It's when, not if.
Well, I appreciate that.
In my opinion, I mean, that's like, you know, it's one of the things is you're still competing and traveling. So it's like, I think for a lot of people, you have to have a little bit of distance from it. Like, okay, you've been out for a while, but like, you're still like playing your best golf right now. So it's going to be a while because you're in the middle of your, like, you don't get put in the Hall of Fame when you're still playing. Like, I mean, you know, we keep playing, but you don't keep playing the way we did when you're at the highest level. You're still playing at the highest level. So no,
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope to keep playing. I mean, I've been lucky to keep healthy. I had a knee surgery about 5 or 6 years ago. And after I got that right knee done, I'd never felt better. I mean, it was a scary thing because I had not had a surgery before ever in my life. And so when I had that done, I think it was the first time I'd ever even been under. So I was like, is this the right thing to do? And I had a really good doctor from Ohio State that fixed me up. I had 3 tears in my meniscus that I just knew something wasn't right. And he said, you know, I think you have a tear in your meniscus. And when they got in, there was actually like 3 or 4 tears in there. So when I got out, it was like 2 months of recovery and I felt amazing. So I've been fortunate to be healthy and try to keep active. And I probably need to work out more because I used to lose 10 pounds in like 2 weeks. Now I just, it doesn't happen. I'm just got a big gut, and you know, I'm like a skinny fat person. It's like the worst body you could ask for. So,
well, now what keeps you motivated? I mean, are you just motivated because you love playing, or do you love the competing, or were you motivated to win the big one someday? Like, was there like?
No, I think I mean, I love to play. I love to compete more than anything. I rarely. And I'm embarrassed to say this to any of the new players that are out there. I rarely practice, which is terrible. And so since I work most of the week, you know, full time, and then I have been got into doing some lessons 3 nights a week. So that's an hour a night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for most of the year, and that takes quite a bit of time. It doesn't seem like it, but by the time you leave, get out there, do the lesson, come home, and then I do follow up for about 30 minutes. Taking the video and chopping it up and sending them still shots and all this stuff. It doesn't leave a lot of time. And then if I do go out of town for a tournament, I'll usually leave, you know, Thursday night or Friday night or something like that, get there, maybe play some holes before the tournament. So, but for me personally, to just go out into a field, as much as I preach this to new players, and I think I kind of feel like I've played long enough to know what I need to do and understand my bag, so I can try to like make up that I don't need to do that, even though everyone probably does. But I if I'm not competing, I get kind of bored with it. Like if I went out of town with my wife or friends or whatever, and I was at a new course, I think I'd be interested if it were like an epic course that you've heard a lot about. But if it were just another course, I have lots of friends that would be like, I just want to play another 18 holes in the ground. Like my brain doesn't work like that. I'd go if we were playing for $20. Like I'd want to play you for 20. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to have something on the line because I'm just a competitive person, and it drives me to, want to win. And that's why I still play open as much as I can, because I still want to beat the best players there. And so, not taking anything away from any Masters players or any Masters wins that I've had, because, you can still play the same course oftentimes, but there's something about still playing open and winning. And that's, I think that's why you said you want to go back on tour next year and
I do
play with the best, right? Like there's something about that, winning that MPO versus MP40. It's not the same prestige like when you win the 40-year-old. Nobody seems to care that much, I mean,
it is a whole different thing. I tried to explain this to people, and again, this is not a knock on. I've been playing MP40 and 50
absolutely
off and on for a couple of years, but it's kind of like when you go to a martial arts tournament and you enter the blue belt category and you win. That's cool, but there's guys there that can kick your ass.
Sure.
And they're 12 feet away from you.
Right.
And it's like, it's not
in 2 seconds. Yeah. Yeah. It's not taking anything away. But there is something about playing MPO. And that's why even going to the Disc Golf Pro Tours, like even if I can get 20th, like I was on top of the world when I got like 21st I beat James Conrad and some big names.
Yeah. And
still got 21st. And that was like a huge accomplishment because people are so damn good now. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I know. When I do the tour next year, I know what's going to happen. Like anytime I cash, people are going to be like, wow, that's amazing. 52 years old and you're cashing. I'm still going to not be satisfied with it, but everyone else is going to recognize that top third against these players is still pretty good.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the finishes of these people now and you see they could win one week. It's more like the PGA where they could win one week and the next week they could miss the cut. It's starting to get like that. Whereas before, if you went to a tournament in the 90s and you didn't get top 5, you were like, I've just played awful, right? And there was never a thought of you not cashing. Like that wasn't even in the possibility. No. If you played at all, well, you were definitely cashing. It was just, am I going to get top 5 or am I going to win? You know what I mean? So now the mentality and the thought process of just showing up and, even at our local B tiers now, I mean, if you're not on your game locally in Ohio, I could get knocked out of cash in a heartbeat from these players. There's so many good players that just don't really travel, but are so good. And it's exciting. So
it is. No, and you're right. It's crazy. Now, I want to know how you feel about being beat by children. And I'm going to back this, like before you answer, I'm going to tell you a story. I was in South Carolina earlier this year. I played in the open division, and the kid on my card, he bogeyed the final round. He bogeyed hole 3 and then birdied the final 15 holes in a row to win, and then waited for his mom to pick him up to go home.
That's outstanding.
And by the way, I told everybody this story like many times. I wanted to hate him so badly, but he was so professional and he was so polite, and he would call me Mr. Stokely. He was so nice, and I'm like, do something wrong. I really want to hate you.
I want to hate you.
But I couldn't because he was so good, but he was cool too. He wasn't a punk. He was a cool kid. Yeah. So when you get beat by somebody, like, it's hard to say this, but less than half your age, it's happened now. Like, what do you think? I mean, are you just happy for them, or does part of you go, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my head I go, well, you should beat me. You're only half my age, So that's like part of it. But
that's a good point.
But there are a lot of younger players. Like when I remember playing in the Pro Tour last year at Disc Golf the Great Lakes Open. There were, I think, 2 of the people, almost all 3 of them combined, were just barely older than me, and it did feel really weird because I was playing with like Cade, the kid that won AM Worlds this year, who was, I think back then, 2 years ago, he was like 16. He won like Junior Worlds or AM Worlds, one of them. And then there was another kid who was 19 or 20. And then the other one was, I don't know, they were older than me, but not by much. And I was just remember laughing. But locally, there's a lot of young talent too. I mean, just this year, there was a young, I think he's 20 or 22, maybe. His name's Harley Payne. He played in the Hambrick and got top 4. Really young, really talented, sidearm backhand combo. Doesn't even know how good he is yet. Probably still learning that, you know, I don't have to run every single thing. I mean, he's still getting a lot of that. But it's funny, like the comment that I always use, Kevin Stewart, you know, used to always say, I don't learn anyone's name until they beat me. It was kind of like he was just
That
being
sounds
like,
so. That's totally Kevin.
just Kevin, right? Like, I don't learn your name until you beat me. And so we always used to joke about that, you know, Tyler, my buddy Tyler and and I was getting thumped early this year by a ton of people, right? And so he like texted me out of the blue and he said, "So you're learning a lot of names this year, aren't you? You're learning a lot of good people." So there's a lot of great players, and I realize that, you know, I'm not 20 anymore. So these guys are out putting in the time and the energy and practicing, and I'm not. So, you know, it's not as easy. I used to be able to not have to practice and I could still go and get that top 5 or top 4 and, you know, at the local events, and in the big ones, maybe not top 4, but still be more competitive. But you get thumped in a heartbeat now. So
yeah. Now I do want to ask you something, because I want to see if you can relate to this. I think you can, because the last time I competed against you, not counting this year, was about 4 years ago. It was up in Northern Ohio. And right about that time, I was playing really well. I won like 6 open tournaments in a row, a couple C tiers, a couple B tiers, and A tier. It was my last kind of run of playing good open. This is like just like 4 years ago.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happened to me is I would be warming up to play, like after the first round, because I'd be on the lead card because I was winning. And when I looked at the people in my group, there was this little part of me that was like, oh my God, they're so much better than me. Like, I would watch them play and I would think, if somebody was walking around with our group, they would wonder why I'm on their hole, because they look so athletic, their throws are so clean, their putts are so smooth. I was scoring better than them. But if you just watched, you would assume that they were all crushing me. At least that's how it felt, because of how good they seemed. Have you got that impression before, where like you're beating players, but you're looking at them going, how can I even compete with them?
Yeah, I mean, not even just now, even in my whole entire life, because my game is not, I don't do anything overly exciting. I don't have a long throw. I don't have, when you watch certain players, you're just like, you want to go watch Simon just to see what Simon's going to do or what Eagle's going to do. And those are extreme cases. But even like when I grew up playing with Tyler Horn, right? Tyler could throw it a mile. He could do these sky hyzer shots. He could do all these fun different things. But we would be neck and neck, or I would beat him and then he would beat me. My game's just boring, right? And so I do often think that. And I think with the newer players, it's mostly a couple of bad decisions per round, or, shot selection, that they tried something that they were able to do 1 or 2 times and they were successful, and the other 6 times or 10 times were terrible and they went for it instead of playing smart. And I think that's oftentimes what separates, even now. Like, I tell newer players all the time, it's shot selection and, making those good decisions when it counts and not trying to do too much. But my game is still boring. I mean, it's effective and I get through, I can scramble and I have a good sidearm and stuff like that. And, Kevin McCoy was just giving me crap on Facebook the other day, saying that I look like the Jim Furyk of disc golf, because Jim Furyk's game is just so non-traditional. He didn't say ugly, but I know that's what he was getting at. But he said, like, he'll still go out there and whip your ass. So, I mean, it was kind of funny at the same time, but I just think play smart, play boring golf, and it usually is pretty effective if the course.
Honestly, and you know this, Climo, like, you could describe Climo's game this way, and I mean this as a compliment to his game. But people, when they ask why Ken was so good, now we're talking about Mach 3 baskets when we were playing, but I would say he would miss 0 putts inside 20 feet. The rest of us would miss 1 or 2 a tournament, right? Because short, those little baskets would spin. Mm-hmm. And like, he would never miss a shot inside 240. Like, he would be close to 100% up and down. And that's like,
you magnify that 2-3 strokes per round times 4 rounds, he beat you by a dozen strokes, and it looks like he kicked your butt.
Yeah. And it's like, he wasn't making flashy shots. He didn't make Simon shots. Now, I mean, of course he was. I mean, to people at the highest level, we got how impressive it was. So it was
Yeah.
flashy to us because, wow, he just he just birdied every single hole in that course under 240. Like that isn't high level impressive, but it's not impressive to the gallery as much.
Right.
He was
so
steady.
I mean, I'll never forget one year in Paw Paw, and I know you've been to Paw Paw, West Virginia. We played the West Virginia Open. We were in the final 9. I played like one of the best tournaments of my life and ended up winning. And all everyone talked about was Tyler in the final 9 because he threw some of the most crazy shots that no one had ever seen on that final 9 layout. And everyone was just talking about him. Like they didn't even care that I won. They were just like, that shot that Tyler threw this way or this way. Like it was just hysterical. And I'm like, wait a minute, Tyler, I won. What are they? It was just comical. Like I was joking with him the other day about that because Paw Paw's always on Labor Day weekend. So, but yeah, I mean, sometimes that's what people want to see. They want to see the big Simon shot, and that's why everyone loves Simon. Not the only reason because he's awesome, but
Yeah, no, I get you. All right, so now you've been playing for all these years. You have 175 wins. You go to this tournament, and you're playing against Dave Feldberg, one of the top. It's a single-digit number of all time. And first thing he does out of the gate is he shoots the course record. He's also the highest rated player there. So it's not a 970 player that just shot the course record. You'd come back to earth. I mean, Dave could have done it all 4 rounds. But you played well. You're only like 2 behind him, right?
Yeah, I think I was 3 back on the first round. Which is
what, three off a course record is high level.
Yeah. No, he played really well, and it was a little weird because we were in a feature. They did like a feature card because they wanted to film, which that's a whole nother podcast or discussion, whatever you want to call it. I think in certain tournaments that's fine. Like in the Pro Tours, that's good because there's 70 guys that are 1,000 rated. But in that tournament, I didn't feel like it was fair because there were only 10 or 12 guys that were 1,000, and the rest of the people were significantly lower. And I just didn't think it was right to put the top 4 rated guys on the card just because it just seemed unfair. But that's besides the point. But yeah, he came out firing. First hole, he threw one in from like 100 feet for a birdie. And so I was like, well, this is going to be kind of a long day. And then he just literally in the first 6 or 7 holes, he had a 100-footer, a 75-footer, a 50-footer. Like he was just banging everything. And I was just like, he was already beating me by like 4 or 5 strokes at that point. And I, maybe more than that, maybe like 5 strokes or something. It was out of hand. And then I got, I think 3 strokes in the last like 2 or 3 holes of that round to cut it back to 3. And I think I was in 3rd place, maybe. I forget how it all shook out the first round, but my whole goal was just to be in the top 4 or 5 going into the last day. And then it just kind of worked out that way. I actually was tied for the lead with him after like the 3rd round, maybe, or 2nd round. I think it was the 3rd round. And then going into the 4th round, he, I don't even remember. Honestly, I don't even remember. I'm terrible.
No, I was kind of paying attention a little bit. And so I saw his course record right off the bat, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's pretty impressive." Of course, but then
like he was already, it was slim. It was easy pickings for him in his mind. I'm sure he was like, "Yeah, we're good." So
and then, but after the 2nd round, you posted, you did a post which I saw that said, "Hey, I got 2 rounds in the book, and I'm only like a 2 off the lead or something like that." But you posted about it, and that's when I was like, I was rooting for you. I mean, I'm rooting for. I mean, Feldberg's my friend. Kevin's my friend. I mean, everyone's my friends. But you have sentimental favorites, right? Like, I like Dave Feldberg a lot. I consider him a friend. I look up to him. But I would root for anybody that hasn't won a major over anybody who has. Period. Because it's like let's spread this around, right? So wasn't that I was rooting against him, but it's just that he's won the big one, right? So you're now within a couple strokes, but after the 3rd round, you're tied. Were you thinking, I'm going to win this thing, or I could win this thing, or holy shit, I hope I don't fuck it up?
No. Going into the last day, I actually thought like this is mine. Like I can win this. And I came out of the gun like on fire. Got a little bit lucky on a couple holes that last round, and I was 2 or 3 up after like maybe 7 or 8 holes. Like I had already taken the lead. I was down, I think I was down 1, and then I got the lead and I was up 2 or maybe 3 even. And then Dave quickly, we hit a backup and I went par par and he went birdie birdie and cut it right back. I think I was up 2 because then he tied it up. And then he got another stroke on me. And then going into the 16th hole, my buddy Dave Northrup was caddying for me. And I never looked at the scores. I knew Kevin was kind of far back. He had some struggles. And Jeff Bennett was hanging on. Like he had some early struggles, but then he kind of kept picking off birdies when it was just kind of like this quiet round of, man, he's really doing well, but I wasn't really paying attention. Then I asked my buddy on 16, I said, I just got a birdie out. There were 3 holes left. And I said, is anyone on the other cards doing anything? And he was like, no. And I said, am I down a couple? He was like, you're down 1. And that's all I knew at that point. So I was like, the only thing I can do is just birdie out. Whatever Dave does is what Dave does. And so 16 is a simple hole that everyone birdied. And so that one that was kind of a push. And then on 17, Dave hit like one of the first available trees. It's a pretty soft par 4 if you get off the tee, but it is kind of a tight tunnel. Dave hit first available and kicked into the kind of the deep. And I was like, okay, this is my chance to tie it up. Dave then throws this miracle shot that got to just about circle's edge or a little before with like a downhill kind of death putt. And I was inside like maybe 18 feet for birdie. So I was like, if I just kind of put my head down and didn't even watch, and Dave hit the front of the basket for just a bit low for the birdie. So we were tied. And then the 18th, I don't know if you've ever played Harmony Bends, but the 18th hole is a crazy, crazy hole where you could take anywhere from a 4 to a 10. I mean, it's really this winding creek that goes all the way through, and it's a par 5. And Dave got caught up early and with some OB, and I didn't. And so I still barely got past him, but it was crazy. Like, yeah, but going into that round, I really thought like, I can win this. Like I've won harder tournaments. I've beat Dave, multiple rounds, this time through where we tied. And so, it was never like, how am I here? That sort of thing. Like I expected to be there, but beating Dave, I mean, Dave won the Worlds 2 times in like the last 2 times. And, he's won 7 trillion tournaments and pro worlds. And, he's a great player. So
that last shot, because Dave threw a little bit long, but you had to make that putt to win.
I did. I had to make that putt to win, or
looking at a 3-way tie.
Yeah, 3-way playoff, which would have really
circles. That were you outside the circle or just inside?
It was just outside. I want to say it was like a foot or 2 outside the circle. And the thing that you can't really tell on the video is like there were lots of people behind us, because when people finish the course, you really don't want to walk all the way back up to 18. So when people finish, they just kind of grab a chair, sit back there, and watch people come in. And it was pretty noisy. There was some rowdy locals maybe, and some couple of adult beverages probably being had. So it was kind of a rowdy group. And as we're coming in, I was just like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the putt you like think about, a long time in your life. And then the camera guys were trying to figure out where my mark was. So they're running back and forth, trying to get in the line. And I'm not total. I mean, I've played around cameras a lot, but not, I mean, they get like pretty much in line with you, right? Like when you're watching it on video and you're watching the putt come right at the basket, there's literally a camera guy almost directly in your line. So I just kind of put my head down and just took a deep breath and took a couple extra seconds, and it was like, just follow through and just putt it, because 9 times out of 10 when I miss, I don't commit to it. I'm just low and left. And so I just really was like, just freaking do this, because I did not want to play any more golf like at all. So yeah, it was good. I don't know how it went in, because it was not a good looking putt, but who cares? It went in.
Not a good looking putt. It was the prettiest putt you ever threw in your life. Right?
There you go. Yeah, it was beautiful. So
I mean, that's like that. You're like the mama swan. It's like, no, it's your baby, man. That's like that is the putt. So I know it's a cliche question, but after, like, how did that feel? And I don't mean like, I know you were excited, but did you feel like a weight off your shoulders, or was it just like, I won? Did you feel the pressure of like 20 some odd years behind you, come off
No,
your shoulders?
no, no, I really didn't. And I mean, I mean, it's been a week and a half now or whatever. And I think it's just started to maybe like, um, hit because Discraft reached out to me and I want to do something special for it. And then it's kind of like, wow, this is a big thing, you know?
It is a
And
big
so
thing.
I had so many awesome messages and phone calls and texts and things like that. But I think when it went in, I was just like, I was more relieved that I just didn't have to go to a playoff because I knew that Bennett was going to be in the playoff and he was on a hot streak, and I knew Feldberg was on, you know, was going to be right there too. So, um, yeah, I think at the time it was just kind of that relief, and then, you know, once everyone jumped in, like McCoy was like right on my back, jumping on me, you know, and it was just like
Yeah.
seeing all your friends there and stuff like that. It was pretty awesome. So,
What
yeah.
was the reaction of Jeff and Feldberg?
Feldberg was perfect gentleman. I mean, I think he was the second person to shake my hand. You know, Kev jumped on me right after I got my disc out of the basket and was coming back. And then
Yeah, I saw
Feldberg,
that.
yeah, Feldberg came right up and shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, man! Like, awesome job." And Jeff, same thing. Like Jeff was bummed, but you know, Jeff was not as, like, he was close, but Dave and I were literally, Dave was winning with 2 holes left, right? So for him to lose out on that, I think was probably a little harder. But I mean, Dave was a gentleman. Dave even sent me a text at 1:30 in the morning, you know, that night when I was driving home, and I got a text from him saying, "Hey, congratulations, you earned it," you know. So mad props to Dave for that, because I mean, some people wouldn't, you know, they don't handle defeat that well. So you know, I appreciated the text, and you know, it meant a lot. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I like just about everybody, and I don't even name the names of people I don't like. But I like Dave a lot. I've always gotten along.
Yeah.
So when you got back to Columbus, and the first time you showed up with the people in Columbus, like, was there a tension? Like, was it like, holy shit, Brad's here? Like, or like, do
No, I
they
don't.
all know you?
Well, so I haven't really seen most of the people in Columbus. So I got home, and then I didn't get home till like 2 in the morning, and then Thursday night I left to go to Pittsburgh to play in that 3-day tournament. And my wife was not thrilled because I was just gone for 10 days before that. So she was a little bit unhappy about that trip. But the people there, like, lots of people were, you know, congratulations, way to go, that sort of stuff. So that was kind of the gist of it. I haven't seen most of the people in Columbus. I had a couple of people that I was doing lessons with were giving me a hard time. They were like, "Hey, is our lesson still on? Like, or are you too busy, or is the price going to change?" You know, like, giving me a hard time about that, just being like, you know, happy for me and stuff like that. So, but no, it's been, there's such a cool group in Columbus. Like, everyone here's been super supportive, and you know, I'm just happy. You know, it was good. It was a good thing to accomplish. So.
Well, let me go ahead and answer for you, for all the people that ask. Yes, the price has changed. And what do you think? Are you crazy? Come on,
Yeah.
that is a rhetorical question. So what about Kevin? Did you see Kevin? Have you talked to Kevin since?
He has not reached out. He knows because I saw him. I think I saw him on social media write something, but I haven't talked to Kevin in a little bit. I think he was home probably about 3 weeks ago. I've been gone so much for tournaments that he came home because he's been working out of state, and he was trying to play stick golf. And I was like, "Dude, I'm gone. Like, I'm out of town." So he knows what's going on. He's a ninja. He's under the radar, so he knows what's up.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. And you know, I'd be remiss in saying it's too bad Brant isn't here to like, because he would have appreciated, because you know, he was an influence in your life. Brent Hambrick, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had an amazing year this year for the Hambrick. I did play Masters in that this year, but we were able to raise our highest amount ever for the Leukemia Society. So I think this year we ended up raising, it was like, it's probably going to end up being like $13,000 or $14,000 this year for the Leukemia Society. So yeah, we had lots of fundraiser things that we did throughout the year, and then part of the tournament funds and some of that. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we're doing good things, and the local community here is super supportive too. So he's living on.
So what now? Like, I mean, now, like, do you think you're going to lose any drive because of this? Like,
No, no, I don't. You know, I still want to play open. I played open in Pittsburgh, and I'm playing open next week in West Virginia, and they're A tier there. But you know, if I can still be competitive, I still want to play open. But you know, there's nothing wrong with realizing that there's 30, 40, 50 guys now that do this for a living that play every single day or every single weekend at that level. And I'm not able to do that. If I were not working a full-time job and could put myself through that kind of, you know, practice and routine, maybe it would be a different story. I mean, if the course made sense, but like the Great Lakes Open is a perfect example. Most of these golf courses they play on, I would never be competitive with anyone. I mean, I could get last place because I just don't have the distance that a lot of these guys that they have. So I can't even get in position to make birdie on most of them. So, you know, if I can be competitive though, I still want to play open and still, you know, it's just one. I would love to win Worlds. You know, that's another big one. But this was a huge accomplishment that, you know, helped get me over that hump. But, you know, I want to win more than one. So
hey, I am with you next year when I do the tour. I am going to have a hard time on the ball golf courses. I mean, I'm going to have a hard time every weekend, but I feel like on a non 12,000 foot course, if I get hot for 4 rounds, who knows? Like, if I get hot for 4 rounds on a ball golf course, I'm not competitive, period.
Yeah.
So, like,
well, it's a different game. I mean, honest to God, like what they're doing to that piece of plastic and how far they're throwing it is just, I can't even believe it. You know what I mean? So, you know, watching the tournament today was in the woods and they were having problems, and, you know, you had some names you don't always see up on top, which is kind of cool. I mean, you always see the same contenders typically up near the top, but I think it's good to keep it in the woods. It maybe doesn't film as good as on a ball golf course, but God, I just love having to shape shots and do different things and scramble. When they're on those golf courses, it's not as much fun for me to watch. So it's just kind of boring.
Yeah,
so.
I'm in the same boat. I love that those tournaments exist. It's like, I think of it like tennis. I love that there's different surfaces with different specialties. Like, I don't want to not have those tournaments at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to be my most enjoyable. But I still.
So why didn't you play the Masters? Why didn't you play U.S. Masters? What was your story?
I was afraid of you.
You could have played Baldwin, John Baldwin, and Patrick Brown and Barry Schultz.
No, I was. I set my seminar schedule earlier in the year with no intention of really competing. I was playing tournaments every weekend, but I was scheduling tournaments. I set my 76 event seminar schedule first, and then I just picked tournaments along that route.
Got it.
Which a lot of them were just the seat tiers. I just picked whatever was there. I didn't base my schedule on events, period. I didn't decide that I wanted to be competitive again until the Dynamic Discs Open, but then my year was kind of set.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you're playing next year. It'll be fun to see you out there again.
Yeah, I'm going to compete against the children. The children on tour.
They'll all three
I'm committed
be
starting January 1st and ending December 31st. I'm only going to refer to them as the children on tour. It's my only chance to take a jab at them, because they got everything else in the world going for them because of their youth. So I'm going to take one little pot shot, and I'm going to call them.
So you're doing MPO all year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you know what, if it's a non tour event weekend, I don't have a problem playing 40 or 50. Yeah. But I'm going to play all the biggest tournaments. It's just an experiment. See how it goes.
I love it. Cool, man.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Brad, I love you. You are like, I mean this, you're like one of my favorite people. I mean, you know, you know, I know so many people in the sport. There's probably a group of like 20 people that I like to compete with. You know, I obviously, you know, Barry and Kevin McCoy would be on that list, and like, but you're in this very small group of people that I consider my peers, that we grew up together. So I don't want to say that when you won I cried, because that would be embarrassing, except I cried. Like I did, I welled up, and like I kind of did, you know, like I'm not crying, Ma, you know, something in my eye. I was so genuinely happy for you. I was so moved by it, because you deserve it. Like watching someone put in 30 years, and then I don't know, man. It's just it's why sports is a beautiful thing to watch instead of just fun to play. It's because of the stories, right?
I appreciate it. The feelings are mutual, and then I mean, it's hard to put into words. I mean, after it was all said and done, I think I was just driving home, just kind of in a daze, you know, thinking the same thing. Like, God, I finally got it. You know what I mean? So it was awesome.
And that's cool. And thank you for talking to me first. Man.
I have another one this weekend, and we're doing a thing on a local cable channel. So that should be fun. And but yeah, I'm glad we got this set up. So keep me posted on what you're going to do with it, and I'll help promote it too. So
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm going to be posting it tomorrow. Final thing. So tell me, Brad, why should people be throwing Discraft discs?
Man, well, for me personally, they really have been the most consistent plastic. I mean, I think it's kind of funny, because my bag, I'm probably one of the worst people to ever be sponsored, because my bag rarely changes, because I can keep the same discs in there and not have to go to the new greatest thing. I mean, I have put some new discs in there, but for me, like, everything is so consistent. I can throw the same disc for so long and then put a new one in, and it does the exact same thing. I'm never looking to fill that gap, but they're putting out some great stuff, and their swirls are amazing. Like, they've just been great, and they've been great to the players, and do a lot for the you know, tournaments around here and regionally and across the world. So they've just been awesome to me, and I got to thank you for helping me get on the team, and thank the guys now for, you know, keeping me and putting up with me and do all the stuff they do to support me. So it's been awesome.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, obviously you earned it. I mean, you earned it in 1993 or 1995, whatever year it was.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
No,
let's just say
we're old.
I know. We should probably be getting ready for bed. It's 10 o'clock. It's almost past my bedtime. You're out in California.
I mean, you get up at like 5 a.m. and eat like oatmeal and bran cereal, right?
Yeah, I got to worry about my poop schedule and all that stuff. So.
Awesome, man. Hey, congratulations one last time. You guys, please comment. Let Brad know what you think in the comments. Subscribe and like and hit the alert bell. All those fun things you're supposed to say if you have a YouTube channel. But I have a YouTube channel, but I've been slacking on it. But I've been traveling so much, but I will be getting some content out there. So if you haven't, you know, subscribed, please do. I appreciate it. Awesome, man. Thank you. I'll be posting this tomorrow. All right. See you, everybody. Later.
All right. See you, Scott. Later.
See ya.